There are many safety issues concerning lights. I'm going to tell you 5 of them. You've probably seen these before, so I'll make it quick. This is a Tweenie 650 watt Fresnel light. I'm going to plug this in, and when I do, I'm going to do a couple of things. First of all, I'm going to loop the cable underneath one of the legs of the stand. That way, it can't tip over as easily. Then, I'm not going to put my knees or my hands on the ground when I plug it in. That way, I'm not connecting with the ground and I'm not creating a way to get electrocuted. One hand. 3 out of 5 of these safety tips will only work if the operator is wearing shoes. Then before I turn the light on, I would obviously open the barn doors, but I'm going to tap it with the back of my hand just to make sure that I'm not going to have any excess electricity coming through the stand. If I tap it with the back of my hand will close on nothing. If I tap it with the front of my hand, death. Okay, so I'm going to open up the barn doors. The 4th thing I'm going to do is say something before I turn it on so people don't get blinded, and worst case scenario, people don't get little bits of glass in their eye when the lens explodes. So here I go. Light coming on, or watch your eyes, or sparking. As long as you say the same thing during the whole shoot and talent knows what you're talking about, then you're fine, right? So have a little chat with them. Say, every time I say watch your eyes, it means don't look directly into the light. Watch your eyes. I'll bring in another stand just to show you. Suppose that this stand has a light on it and it's plugged into power. I don't ever want to grab this light and this light at the same time, because if this is earthed to one part of the building and this is earthed to another part of the building, the difference in earth potential will go through my arms, through my heart, and zap me. So I don't want to ever do this one at a time. Some gaffers only set lights that are 6 feet apart so that anybody over 6 feet can get zapped, but anybody under 6 feet can't quite reach. What else? I was going to tell you one more thing about that. About the difference in ground potential. So remind me, and I'll remember, and I'll tell you later. So there are many ways you can light someone. I'm going to show you a very simple way that's usually flattering, but you're lighting it so you can light it however you want. I'm just showing you the Rembrandt lighting. So this is a piece from a Rembrandt painting, and what do you notice about it? Well, the shadows are soft. So this means that the light was coming in soft, just like the light's coming in soft on me right now. Also, see how the reflection of light in his eyes tell us where the light was coming from. So it was coming from somewhere over here. What else can you notice about it? The light's coming from up high, and it's because of the way that he's positioned, his nose shadow creates a little triangle of light in his shadow side of his eye. So see that little triangle of light? And that's how you kind of know that you're in Rembrandt lighting territory. Now, the way to do this is really, really simple. It's one light with diffusion and a bounce. And it looks like there's no bounce, but actually, if you look here on the side of his face, you can faintly see that there's some bounced light coming back in. I went to the latest Rembrandt exhibit in London. Was really interesting. I had seen everything before because I go to every Rembrandt exhibit because I love him. But I saw what they had that was really cool was they had a picture of, it was like a model of the window that was in his studio and the diffusion over the window. So this is kind of, and now that you've seen this before, you'll start noticing that in most drama, everything's lit Rembrandt style. The only difference is that usually we're shooting into the shadow side, and right now it's straight on, so he's got shadow on one side of his face and brightness on the other. But usually we would turn him and shoot this way. So that's Rembrandt lighting. I just remembered what I was going to tell you that I couldn't remember. If you do get electricity through your body and you feel the jolt, you need to go to A&E for 24 hours and stay there for 24 hours, because electricity travels at the speed of light, and if it goes through your heart, even for a fraction of a second, it could stress your heart out and you could have a heart attack. And after 24 hours, it's less likely that that will happen. So go to the emergency room and just sit there for 24 hours. So bring a book, bring something to do, Samurai Sudoku. Now this is only one way of lighting, but it's simple and it's usually flattering. So I'm going to teach it to you. This is sort of how you would want to set up a Rembrandt lighting setup. With one person, you've got, I'm looking straight down on them. I've got a person, and that's their nose, and here are their eyes. Now, if I have a Mercedes-Benz emblem, I'm going to put it on top of their head like this. There's a Mercedes-Benz emblem. And I'm going to make the one point go straight out to the back of their head. You decide which way you want the key light to be. So if you want it on their left, you just make a dotted line out here and put a light on them. Maybe with some diffusion, or you might turn that light around into a bounce. But we want diffused light coming in. This is just the way I like to do it. You could do it with hard light or whatever. You also want this light to be above above the head. So it's not coming in from the side, it's not coming in from below. Okay? On the other side of this light, directly opposite the light, you put a bounce return or a fill light, or you could even put a light into the board and bounce nice soft light off of it to them. So that's basically it. It's one light, diffusion, and a bounce on the other side. And then you would shoot from this side, in the shadow side. I hope that makes sense. I'm going to sign it. Now here's a little diagram of a two-shot or over-the-shoulder dialogue shot. So you got two people, and again you can light it any way you want. This is just the sort of the Rembrandt-esque way. Got two people, and they're looking at each other. Now when two people look at each other, you've got to understand that that forms a vector, and that vector is the 180-degree line. So they form a line, and the easy way to think about this is you want all your lights on one side and all your cameras on the other side of this line. Think of it like this is a proscenium arch of a theater, and here are the audience seats. So the lights come from here, and the cameras come from here. So if we're going to do this sort of with the Rembrandt style lighting, we're going to put a pretend Mercedes-Benz emblem on the top of each of these people with the points going to the back of their heads. Let's see, I'll make that a little bit bigger so you can see. And we're going to, since this is the light side, we're going to put a light right here. And for this person, we're going to put a light out here. Okay, now they're going to share a bounce, or maybe there is no bounce. But this is, if we want to look into the shadow sides, this is how we want to do it, okay? If there's a bounce, we'll put a bounce over here. Okay, here are the cameras. The cameras are going to be as, and here are their shoulders, by the way. The cameras are going to be just off the shoulder. So if you want to see a little bit of the head and shoulder, you can in the foreground. And there's a camera here, and there's a camera here. So these cameras need to be able to frame each other out. And if we do it this way, it's going to look really nice. The eye lines are going to be correct. If we do it this way, say we move the cameras over here, then the eye lines aren't going to look that great because the people aren't going to be looking like they're looking into each other's eyes. They're going to look like they're looking off to the side and possibly not telling the truth. So let me just highlight this with the purple highlighter. You got a light here, got a light here, got a camera here, and a bounce. Both of these lights are above the eye line so that we get that nice nose shadow if we want. And they're softened with diffusion. And you can either light this bounce or not, or get rid of it. It's up to you how much contrast you want on them. And you want to keep the cameras as close as you can to the person. In fact, when somebody's, I'll try to show you, I don't have a matte box, but if this camera looked like a camera and it had a matte box on it, and this person wasn't here, I would want this person to look at the matte box right here on a little piece of tape. Does that make sense? That way, when they look at something, they're always looking at that little piece of tape, and that keeps their eye line correct. This is great for, suppose it's a newscaster and they're interviewing somebody, and then this somebody has to leave, but this person has to do all of his intros and outros to camera. If he looks at that little piece of tape, it'll look like he's still looking at this person who's not there anymore.